Bandra Sadwa Samaya Manu Balaya Bandra Sadwa Denu Bai Dizra Deto Memba Soto Kaya Memba Wai Zubu Kaya Memba Amurado Memba Wai Sarwa Sede Mebraya Sarwa Krama Suza Me Zedan Shreya Kuru Ha 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 Bhagavan Saravata Dangata Bandra Mame Munza Baranzimba Mahasamaya Satwa Bandra Satwa Samaya Manu Balaya Bandra Satwa Denu Bai Dizra Deto Membawa Soto Kaya Membawa Zubu Kaya Membawa Anorado Memba Sarva Sede Mebraya Sarva Krama Suza Me Zedan Shreya Guru Ha 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 Hoy Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Bandra Mame Monza Branze Bhava Mahasamaya Satwa.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So we will begin with the usual opening prayers that we do. So the link to download text I will provide here. Some of you already got because, well, some of you already got. But okay, let's see. So in the chat today is okay. Don't worry too much about it. But there are basically three, I think, texts that we will be relying on for a little bit. From this link in the chat, you can find these texts. One is the opening and dedication booklet that we use in DDIS. Second one is a short text called the General Laying Aside. And the third one is a Fivefold Mahamudra text by one of the early lineage masters. This text is called the Jewel Garland. So three texts altogether. So beginning with the opening recitation. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. All mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all knowingness, may they experience happiness be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Bodhi. Thus, until I achieve Buddha, I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind until death. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind from now until this time tomorrow. I engage in virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Now to the top of page 6. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent, I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity, the perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, most excellent. I take refuge until Bodhi is reached by the merit of generosity and other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all wandering beings. May all mothers, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mothers, sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated. The happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from the bias of attachment and aversion. Bhadra Samhaja, Bhadra Samhaja, Bhadra Samhaja, protectors of all sentient beings without exception, deities who vanquish the ruthless hordes of Maras, knowers of everything as it is, Bhagavans and your retinues. Please come here, Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dhupe Aloke Gende Nivide Shabda Pratija Soha. This ground sprinkled with scented waters and strewn with flowers, adorned with the supreme mountain, four continents, sun and moon, I hold in mind as a Buddha land and offer it. May all wandering beings experience such a pure realm. Whatever slight virtue that may have been gathered through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and beseeching, I now dedicate to complete Bodhi. Again, good morning to everyone. I'm sure some of you remember we started this kind of daily practice 5-6 years ago on Zoom when the world, whole world over, shut down due to the COVID pandemic. Then from then things change. Then little bit by little bit, also, at least for me, I stopped the daily practice on Zoom. But now, kind of feeling like the world is changing so fast, so quick, It's does feel like it's like on fire. Overall, right? Pandemic or not, whether we feel like the world is on fire or not, the Buddha 2,500 years ago already said, the world is on fire. It's burning and burning. Even 2,500, 2,600 years ago, he already said, this world is on fire. As long as this world is very much still experienced through the five aggregates, the aggregate of form, in which there are four further parts, right? Into the four elements of wind, fire, water, earth, which means motility, movement, then heat, and then fluidity and solidity, these four physical elements supported by space. So that's constitute the first aggregate, first pile. Then the aggregate, the pile of sensation phenomena, which is divided into painful, pleasurable, and neutral, which then which we then respond to with like, dislike, and don't care. So the second heap, the second aggregate, sensation, then perception, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, functioning now, to perceive, to kind of cognize. What is it that we have this like towards, dislike towards, or neutral towards? Then the next heap is called mental formations. So here is when more complex feelings and ideas begin to take shape, mental formations. And that which allows, that which facilitates this happening is 6 types of consciousnesses related to the 6 senses. So these are all called heaps or aggregates because they are not 5 things. There are 5 processes, 5 momentary processes that are going on. As long as, whether 2,600 years ago, right now, and 2,600 years into the future, if Human beings are still walking around on planet Earth. As long as we are experiencing the world through these 5 heaps, 5 types of processes, then the world will continue to be on fire, according to the Buddha. He says, the aggregate of form is on fire. The aggregate of sensation is on fire. The aggregate of perception is on fire. The aggregate of mental formations is on fire. And the aggregate of consciousness is on fire. And all these 5 heaps are on fire. So as long as, we are, our sense of self and the way we interact with this sense of self, and then beyond, the way we interact with other, our perception of other, as long as they are done through any of these 5 aggregates, and then so it's on fire. As I have recently said, or maybe confess, I am not sure how much, an individual can do to have an impact and change in a big way in the world. And I don't mean negative, of course. I mean in a positive way. Now, it may sound kind of a little maybe pessimistic, but what I want to say is that if we want to think what an individual may be capable of doing in a meaningful way, who do we have as this reference point, as practitioners of Buddha Dharma? Who do we have? Logically deduced, who we have is, of course, Buddha Shakyamuni, right? He's the template for all the others even that came after, right? Whether you, in your mind, Milarepa comes to mind, or Guru Rinpoche comes to mind, or whoever it is, that comes after that. We all have Buddha Shakyamuni as the template of, such is an awakened being, such is a fully awakened, completely perfect Buddha. So how much could Shakyamuni Buddha do? Depending on your ability to see, it's a lot. Or, depending on your ability to perceive, you may also feel not much. So, as much and as little that a single person can do, Buddha Shakyamuni did. So how much can the Dharma, under my hands, make an impact in the world? Well, how close am I to Buddha Shakyamuni's realization? Right? So maybe on that level, you're a little disappointed because it's like someone, spraying some cold water in your face, a little sobering. Oh, okay. However, if you ask me, for me, how much can Dharma do, Buddha Dharma do for me? Now I have no doubts. can do the best that anything that exists at all can do. No doubt. Where there is doubt is, will I put in the necessary work? Will I have enough consistency to applying the Dharma? And so, daily practice is important, and so I decided, for my sake, I need what I call the heart, heart, corazón, heart. I need a heart gym, and I need gym partners. So all of you, thank you for turning up at this heart gym, and I need gym partners. And I suspect maybe some of you also need this heart gym and gym partners. So I want to appeal to all of you. Of course, you may, for the first few days, wonder, yeah, maybe I'll do, maybe I won't. It's okay. Don't worry. If you decide not to join the gym, don't take it personally. We still remain friends. But at the same time, I want to say, if you really want to build some heart muscles, bulk up a little bit, you want to look for consistency. And so this is the context for consistency. Yes, of course, you say, I am busy, I have this, I have that. It's all about making priorities. It's all about prioritizing. And so we have to choose, We have to choose. Even, it's like, oh, I have a doctor's appointment. Well, did you try to move doctor's appointment or not? You don't have to answer that question to me or to anyone else, to your own heart. Oh, I have, friends staying with me. Well, did you try to explain to friends, If attending heart gym, it's like, doing personal hygiene, right? Just because friends come or family come, you don't say, oh, okay, I'm not going to shower. I'm not going to brush my teeth. I'm going to hold it all in. No time to go to the bathroom. No, right? It's about prioritizing, but I think most of us, myself included, we don't prioritize the way that we should, based on what we say we want. No other reason. I don't want you to think, oh, you'll disappoint me, this, that, those sorts of things. Just based on your own commitment to yourself, your commitment to waking up. Then, with that commitment to wake up, then we have to see, right, what needs to follow that commitment. So we have aspiration bodhicitta, and we have action bodhicitta. A commitment to the result, aspiration bodhicitta. A commitment to the means, the method to obtaining the result. These two are necessary from here until destination is reached. Right? So, anyway, do please consider, the importance of consistency. I am going to be careful not to use the D word. You all know the D word? Yeah, in English at least, Discipline. Okay, I won't use that word again. Sometimes people use such words to beat themselves up. Consistency. To be consistent is to be reliable to yourself, for yourself. There is an unskillful way to be focused on self, and then the Buddha taught skillful ways of attending to self. It's not true. It's misunderstanding the teachings to say, oh, Buddha said there's no self, therefore. Buddha says, when you are able to achieve the realization of not self, then you become truly free. In order, again, to achieve this realization and complete realization, from first realization to complete realization, it's like when the sun is about right below the horizon at dawn. Right before that, you can see its glow hiding behind the horizon. That is the first realization that there is a sun. Then it peaks over. When it peaks over the horizon, it's pretty dramatic. That's like seeing nature of mind for the first time. Right now, maybe we're just, our sun is still right under the horizon. You can see a glow. You have heard people talking about this. Then the moment it comes slightly above the horizon, that sunrise, right? Very dramatic. That's seeing nature of mind. But full Buddhahood is when the sun has ascended all the way to, you say, right above your heads, the strongest, when the sun is strongest. So this process of the sun is often analogized to when we talk about realization, especially in the Mahamudra context. When we talk about realization, that word is used for many points along the way, just as a side point. So if we aim for this realization, if we want this realization, then consistency and reliability, reliable for yourself, reliable to yourself. Self is not a problem. In fact, not self is the truth about things, about everything. But you don't get to this realization of not self by completely abandoning any and all senses of self. In any case, that's not possible, right? Neither did Buddha teach that as a desirable, abandoning any and all senses of self. No, Buddha did not teach that. What Buddha taught was how to skillfully work with this sense of self that we have, how to look more deeply at this sense of self, and thereby understand the mechanics of self-making, the limits of this self, and the burdens that this self can begin to place on us. So you have to begin with a concern for self. My self don't want suffering. Myself wants happiness. We start right there. Prematurely talking about benefiting beings is just, especially Gyopa Rinpoche emphasized this a lot. Prematurely talking about benefiting sentient beings is part of that mistaken self having big ambitions. Wanting to be like Buddha Shakyamuni, where everybody makes statues of him, putting on altars, putting on thrones, and having people admire. Oh, how amazing, how wonderful. So prematurely talking about thinking and benefiting sentient beings is just another one of selves, mistaken selves, tricks. This mistaken self is not evil, but it's sneaky. It's sneaky. It likes to play tricks. So again, right, back to what I was saying at the beginning, the pandemic locked us in, locked us down, then we turn inwards. Such a relief when the pandemic was over. Then we got busy running around again. And we run around and we run around. And then the world is, back on full steam ahead, on fire. Now, some of us, might even be nostalgic. Of course, we're not nostalgic for all the lives lost during to COVID, but we may be nostalgic for, somehow, if somehow we can all be locked down again, wouldn't that be such, a gift? This is the equivalent of me fantasizing about, I said, my retirement plan is to figure out how to get, incarcerated, how to be put into prison in one of these nice Scandinavian prison. But the trick is what kind of crime can I commit that won't harm others, but will be serious enough for them to put me, in jail for the rest of my life in Scandinavia. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just Google, Scandinavian prisons. I was like, that's like the perfect retreat, and from there to Dewa Chen, it's a pretty good plan, except how to get incarcerated, without causing harm, If some of you figure that out, please send me a message. I'll be most grateful, Then I'll work towards that goal, Trouble is, I also think they don't have life in prison. They don't have life sentence, I think. Ugh. So, to those of you, myself included, obsessively looking at news, there's no point, You already know everything you need to know about news. Really, no point. Yeah? Please turn to the Dharma. As I said, I don't know how much, what I do can bring real impact to the world. But I'm very certain what I do can make a big difference to myself, and hopefully from there, right, in the spheres I occupy, it can bring some form of good to people around me. So some of you may have missed this at the beginning. I said, and especially of course, in Vajrayana, the language is big. And sometimes this big language in Vajrayana leads to people having magic thinking. And then it's no surprise also, at least in my experience, those who come to Vajrayana practice, not those who are born in that culture, but those who come to Vajrayana, those who are born in the culture, have more of a deep cultural sense of like all this big talk, is also mitigated by reality, right? Generations and generations of practicing already. But then those of us who are new to it, this big talk in Vajrayana, can lead us into a magic thinking world. And I don't know how much, many of you probably don't know, in the US, many people who practice Vajrayana, or a higher percentage of those who practice Vajrayana practice, as opposed to Zen or Theravada or Pure Land, a higher percentage are likely to believe in things like QAnon, magic cures, the government already know. At this morning I was listening to BBC, like a certain world leader that will go unnamed posted, just for a few minutes publicly about this secret super cure for all disease, that in fact, we can all be disease free if we just lie down on this bed for how many minutes a day, and that governments and big pharma and all is hiding this from us, They posted this for like maybe an hour, and then they took it down, and they're saying, well, this is signaling to the people who do believe this to say, I believe you. You may be onto something. And when I heard that, I was going, oh, I can think of a few people that I know involved in Tibetan Buddhism going, oh yeah, see, I knew it. So Vajrayana language sometimes can lead people to this kind of magic thinking, But Vajrayana or not, Mahayana or not, Hinayana or not, right? All of us look to Buddha Shakyamuni as our template for what it means to be enlightened, for what it means to be Buddha. Then from there we look to Milarepa. Then from there we look to Guru Rinpoche and so on and so forth. They are all based on that original template. So how much can they do to change this world? A lot, if you know how to see Buddha Shakyamuni's activities. But is it a lot in the way you and I think about it? No. The way you and I think about it as a lot, and especially if we have a different cultural background, religious background, we may think the promise of Jesus Christ coming back, right, to establish kingdom of heaven on earth, to drive out all suffering, and everybody live happily ever after. The lamb and the lamb and the lion, sitting next to each other, all vegan now, even in the animal, in carnivores, right? We have this kind of thinking, When Buddha says benefiting all beings, it means that. By that set of metrics, then Buddha Shakyamuni has not achieved anything. And you following Buddha Shakyamuni's way, you will also not achieve anything. By that measurement. How much Buddha Shakyamuni's activities? Actually, from a Mahayana perspective, Buddha Shakyamuni's activities continues till now. So Kyopa Jidinzumgan says, right now, the thorn is still piercing Buddha Shakyamuni's toe. Very mysterious statement. This is in reference to the ripening of the last negative effect of having killed, the person who was planning to kill 500 bodhisattvas. In one of Buddha Shakyamuni's past lifetimes, when he was already, it says, on the 7th or 8th bhumi, at least 7th bhumi, if not 8th bhumi, according to Gyopa Rinpoche, he resorted to murdering this otherwise would-be murderer that was planning to kill 500 bodhisattvas. And as a result of that, Buddha Shakyamuni became Buddha Shakyamuni. So that's one result of that decision. But the other result of that decision was also in the short term. After that lifetime, it's said that Buddha Shakyamuni was born, or at that time not yet Buddha Shakyamuni, the Bodhisattva, was born in hell realms for many lifetimes. And finally, until the final lifetime, where we know him as Buddha Shakyamuni, the final kind of residual ripening of karma was a poisonous acacia thorn from the acacia tree, pierced Buddha Shakyamuni's toe, causing an infection that lasted for a while. In one of these mysterious statements, but actually not that mysterious, somebody asked Gyopa Rinpoche and said, so when the thorn pierces his toe, is that the end of that cause and effect, right? That karma? And Gyopa Rinpoche says, just as Buddha activities are endless, the piercing of the toe is also endless. That's the extent of Buddha Shakyamuni's awakened results. Here the meaning, right, of the toe, the acacia thorn continues to pierce the toe. The emphasis here is not that Shakyamuni continues to suffer. The emphasis here is Buddha Shakyamuni continues to teach the unmistaken nature of cause and effect. And what better teaching he can give to us, to those of us who are seeking to protect ourselves from suffering. He is also teaching the power of bodhicitta to overcome personal pain for the sake of others. And therefore, as long as Buddha activities are endless, the piercing of the toe as a ripening of last negative karma continues. Don't worry too much if you don't fully understand this. It's not something that you logically think through. It's understanding arises from the heart. So anyway, I know you will try your best to attend what I call now our heart gym. We need to turn up at the gym consistently. You're still at the signing up phase of the opening of this gym, as I said, So if you decide, oh no, this is not what I need right now, then no hard feelings. Just to be clear, But if you do sign up for the heart gym, I have to say, the only way you will really see the benefits of this hard gym is to be consistent in attending. We are all gym partners. We will spot each other, as they say. We will sometimes ride in the same car to go to the gym. So especially when you're feeling a little lazy, you need someone else to say, hey, I'll pick you up. And let's go. I have not seen you for a few days. Let's go. So maybe you, among this group, you can even find a gym partner if you know you're going to kind of slip off. You may tell someone, hey, if you don't see me for a few days, I give you permission to harass me. Hey, where are you? Because we all need this, samsara. It's very convincing, They'll just keep telling us there are more important things to do, I'm not even saying, you have to do this all the time. And this is the reason there is monastic life as designed by the Buddha. Whatever monastic life became later, that's society making its demands on monastic life. But monastic life as designed by Buddha Shakyamuni is so that our life becomes our practice. Lacking that, since most of us cannot do that, at least something like this. This past weekend, we had a short camping retreat. A little bit of context at Urban Dharma. We have not done this kind of like a few days together type of retreat. Very little compared, I think, to other centers. In part, I feel that we're not ready. We don't have the conditions. You're like, well, make the conditions. It's like, yeah, but it comes at a price, putting a lot of stress on people. But again, at a certain point, I think some people express this over this weekend and say, oh, what a pleasure. Even just for one day to be away from where we habitually are. And then greater advantage, this campsite somehow, no internet signals. But we were working with the text that I plan to work on, to focus on for our daily practice. This Fivefold Mahamudra text from an early lineage master from the 14th century. One of the throne holders called Chökyi Gyalpo, Dharmaraja. And Chökyi Gyalpo was Lama Tsongkhapa's teachers. One of the founder of Gelugpa lineage, Lama Tsongkhapa. He spent about 1.5 to 2 years in Drigung. When he first came from Amdo, from eastern Tibet, one of the first places he went to, because at that time Drigung was famous as one of the key places to go to if you want to learn how to meditate. So he went there and he trained for 1.5 to 2. So his teacher was the throne holder at that time, Chökyi Gyalpo, Dhamaraja. So Dhamaraja wrote this manual. And so we were looking, I gave people an overview of this manual, and you can see how some of us, at least, I don't know, maybe others are like, oh, but some of us express, like, oh, what a, got a taste of how it could work if you are, doing this in a non-rush way, as part of your life, but then your life with limits, limiting yourself, putting aside all the distractions. And this was, Buddha's design of the monastic life. Not for everyone, for sure, but if you don't have that kind of conditions, monastery or not, you will never really go beyond. Go beyond. Sometimes it feels like this. You will never go beyond, peeling onions. Yeah, most of you now know. Almost all my examples come from food. My karma, my attachments. You will never go beyond peeling onions. You're like, wait, what do you mean? Meaning, your Dharma practice can feel like just peeling onions. Meaning what? No fun, because at the level of peeling onions, it's just crying. And you never have time, to go to sautéing onions. Much less really tasting, onions. You just peel and then like pass on to someone else. Peel again, pass on to someone else. And after peeling a while, maybe you're like, you can kind of get, you can smell, you're like, oh yeah, I know, saute onions, but the way we practice Dharma here, very part-time, very limited. Then we easily become kind of discouraged, because we never get to the point of sauteing onions. Maybe we get to the point of chopping onions. Oh, even more. Theory. Yeah, so consistency is really important. Anyway, so today is more, an introduction to what we're going to do. So as I said, the main text that we are going to anchor our daily practice is this text called the Jewel Garland, an elucidation of the Fivefold Mahamudra. Each day, just so we know, I will go between an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. So by 9:45, we will be done for the most part, between 9:30 and 9:45, my time here in New York. Then we will be done. This Jewel Garland, an elucidation of the Fivefold Mahamudra, as you can see, is a long text, at least in this format that I have it, is 82 pages. You want to read, I would say, don't read beyond 45. No use, beyond 45. Because 45 onwards is the more Mahamudra section on developing stability of mind and then being introduced to nature of mind. But if you don't use the practices given here to first stabilize the mind, just wanting to know about nature of mind, which most of us have read here and there, this nature of mind. But then reading too much of that is just concepts, concepts, concepts that don't really have real application. In the Zen tradition, someone asked, what is Buddha? One Zen master's, basically, he used some ancient reference, but basically his answer can be translated as toilet paper. What is Buddha? Toilet paper, he says. And it's like, what? Actually, his answer is closer to like used toilet paper. Used toilet paper that's already like dry. So, first part of that, what does it mean? Toilet paper before it's dry. To clean the mess, right? It's the most natural mess that any of us will make, but nonetheless needs to be clean. So that's saying, the confusion we have in some ways is the most natural confusion that we're ever going to make. But nonetheless, it needs to be clean. And what is Buddha? Buddha is toilet paper in that sense. So here, right? All the talk about nature of mind, things that you can read about when you're not yet ready, they are useless. They may be fancy, but they cannot serve as toilet paper. It's like toilet paper, pictures of toilet paper. You're in the middle of nowhere, you have phone, your phone has a lot of pictures of toilet paper, but you look around, there's nothing that you can be used as toilet paper, then, you're in trouble. Yeah. Anyway, then the dry part is saying how, for many of us, because Buddha is not our reality, Buddha is Shakyamuni's reality. And so if we try to use that toilet paper, it can still do the work, but it's not very comfortable. It's dried. It's not very soft. So better to have your own toilet paper, It's when you realize Buddhahood yourself. Zen tradition has a way to be very direct, very crude, but gets the point, This is, I call, grandma style of teaching Dharma. Grandma, the grandmas who don't indulge in nonsense, very practical, Can you use that to clean yourself? No, useless. And so if you want to read, I can say, of course, I don't want you to like, what's. You can read beyond, but don't focus so much beyond page 45, We'll get there when we get there. But it's good. It's good to look over the text. Yes. Don't be afraid. It'll give you some idea, but beyond that, don't think about. Starting from page 45, don't think about. It's not for you to think about. It's for us to take into our experience. Yeah. The second text I have is called, a very short one, is called The General Laying Aside, from Drigong Kagyu collection of Dharma practices known as Ratna's Oral Instructions. All monasteries have published their own kind of prayer book. So this is one famous prayer book that we use in Drigong Kagyu monasteries and nunneries called Ratne Xiaolong. Ratna is referring to Kyoba Rinpoche. Of course, it's not literally that in there everything from Kyoba Rinpoche. In fact, just a small amount. These are more like, they're called chöchö. Chöchö is a collection of Dharma practices. And this is like a handbook that contemporary monasteries, they all have a chöchö. So this is a Drigong chöchö known as Ratna Xiaolong. And in there is a very short practice called Qi Shak. Qi is general, universal. Shak is to lay aside. Normally translated as confession. But confession is not a good translation. In fact, shakpa means to lay aside, put aside, meaning to be done with. Confession, this word, and then the Christian understanding of confession. In the Christian understanding of confession, based on my limited understanding, confession is necessary because you have created an offense towards someone else. You have offended someone else. You have done something to upset someone else. And so now you need to confess and make restitutions. Do something that will satisfy the other before the other releases you from their displeasure, their anger. Now, their motivation could be positive or whatever, that's beside the point. But in Shakpa, the so-called confession practice, where we talk about the four powers, if you look at the four powers, nowhere in the four powers does it involve restitution. There are the four R's, but restitution is not one of the R's. Well, I'm not saying that in life we don't need to make restitutions. I'm not talking about that, right? In life, if we have wronged someone, if we have upsetted someone and we are in the wrong, of course we should do to right the wrong. Yes. But I'm saying Shakpa as a method, as a requirement. Shakpa as a method, Shakpa as a requirement of training the mind is not about the kind of theistic, the God-based religion idea of needing to make confession because we have offended God or offended the Buddha. Here, this exercise, this practice, this method is, in a way, as we say, it's we need to forgive ourselves. To lay aside. So that it's not stopping us, it's not preventing us from changing. So the four powers is the power of regret. So sometimes this is called to shak, tolo shak. To, when the word tol is joined with shakpa, to shak, tol is to expose. Not exposing other people, exposing our own unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. To uncover, to, you could say, discover, to see clearly. Oh, actually, this is a cause of suffering. And this is how I habitually get caught in creating this cause of suffering. Tol shak, shakpa, put aside. So the first is the power of regret. Second is the power of reliance or refuge. Meaning, we rely on the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as witnesses, as examples. They are the right reliance or right refuge because they themselves have done this and succeeded in doing this. So that's the second power. The third power is the power of remedy, which is, here we may think, oh, restitution. No, this is about how you can lay it aside. And that's the meditation, that's the practice, that's the confession, quote unquote. And fourth, the power of resolve. Resolving, I don't want to get caught in this way anymore. I don't want to keep repeating this madness. So this general laying aside is a very short text that I think is good to do on a regular basis. Daily, in fact. So daily we will do this. Because as a preliminary, according to the text, Jewel Garland, it says, as for preliminary, for practicing the Fivefold, two practices they single out in this text. One is the laying aside according to Vajrasattva, and two, the accumulations according to mandala. Only 2. And in this way, in a very essence way, is pointing to. In fact, all Dharma practices consist of these 2 aspects. Purifying, and in the very purifying, actualizing. Purifying as in clearing. In the actual clearing of faults, of afflictive emotions, Buddha qualities arise. Which is what Sangye Buddha means. Sang is to clean, cleanse, purify. Ge is to expand, purifying faults, expanding qualities. They are not 2 steps actually. They are 2 sides of the same coin. They are part of the same process. So we begin with Shakpa. So please turn to that page. We will end today with doing this Shakpa as your first introduction to it. Yeah? And of course, over the days, we will slowly explain. Yeah? There are also some pitfalls when it comes to practicing this. And I will point that out to my best ability. Alas, great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions and 3 times, I who am called, and you give your own name here, supplicate you turn your awakened attention to me from beginningless samsaric time until this very moment. Under the power of the afflictive emotions, attachment, aggression, confusion, pride, and jealousy, I have committed the 10 non-virtuous actions through the gates of my body, speech, and mind. I have committed the 5 heinous crimes and the 5 secondary heinous crimes. I have transgressed the individual liberation vows, transgressed the precepts of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samayas of the great vehicle secret mantra. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards the 3 jewels. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my gurus and teachers. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my father and mother. I have been faithless and disrespectful towards my companions. In the pure spiritual life, I have abandoned the sublime dharma and disparaged the noble sangha. In short, I now lay aside all faults and transgressions whatsoever that have become obstacles to the higher realms and to liberation, and that have become the cause for samsara and the lower realms. Before you, the great Guru Vajra holder, and all you Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, and 3 times I expose the faults, I confess them, I am contrite, I regret them, I will not conceal them, I will not hide them henceforth, I will restrain myself and abstain from them. If I do not expose and lay them aside, they will not be transformed. Therefore, by my revealing and laying them aside, may they be cleared, may I be purified. Namo to the mandala of you, victorious Idam deities. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Vajra exalted body. I expose and confess the broken samayas of the Padma exalted speech. whom I expose and confess the broken samayas of the perfect exalted mind. 3. I expose and lay aside the broken root and branch samayas. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed knowingly. I expose and lay aside transgressions committed unknowingly. The 3 non-virtues of the body, the 4 non-virtues of speech, the 3 non-virtues of the mind. I confess each of the 10 non-virtues individually. With faultless disciplined conduct, possessing completely pure disciplined conduct, and through the disciplined conduct that is free of arrogance, may the paramita of disciplined conduct be perfected to glorious Vajrasattva. I pay homage. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manubalaya Basasada Denobadita Dedame Bava Sudokaya Membava Supokaya Membava Anurado Membava Savasida Member Jasabakamasu Jamajidam Sran Guru Hong Hao Bhagavan Savada Gada Bezama Jabasi Bava Mahasamaya Sato Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manubalaya Basasada Denobadita Dedame Sudokaya Supokaya Memava Membava Savasida Member Sarvakamasu Jamajinam Sram Guru Hong Hao Bhagavan Savatara Besama Jabase Baba Mahasamaya Sado Besata Samaya Manobalaya Basasata Denaba Dita Dita Miva Sudoka Miva Suboka Miva Nureto Miva Savasidi Mivaja Savakamasu Jamajinam Sram Guru Hong Hao Bhagavan Savatara Besama Jabase Baba Mahasamaya Sado Besata Samaya Manubalaya Basata Denobadita Dita Miva Sudoka Miva Suboka Miva Nureto Miva Savasidi Mivaja Savakamasu Jamajinam Sram Guru Hong Bhagavan Savatara Gata Besama Munja Besama Mahasamaya Sato Om Basara Sato Samaya Manubalaya Basara Sato Denopatita Deda Memo Sudoka Memo Suboka Memo Anurata Memo Sabasidi Mebaja Savakama Sucha Majidam Zanam Guru Hong Bhagavan Savatara Gata Besama Munja Besama Mahasamaya Sato Om Basara Samaya Manubalaya Basara Denopatita Deda Memo Sudoka Memo Suboka Memo Anurado me baba savaside me ba ja savakamasu jame jiram sarang guru hong hao bhagavan savatara gata besama me muja bese baba mahasamaya sato Om Basara Sato Samayam Manu Balaya Basara Doteno Patita Dida me baba sudoka me baba suboka me baba anurado me baba Sarva Siddhi me Parayacha Savakamasu Jame Janam Sarang Guru Hong hao bhagavan savatara gata besama me muja bese baba mahasamaya sato Changchu Sem Chorim Poche Ma Ge Panam Ge Gyuji Ge Ba Nyam Pa Me Mayam Go Ne Gong Du Bewa Shou. So if you have a tablet or something like that, to use these texts, that's good, no need to print. Obviously, if you prefer printed, you should print it out. But do know, like the translation, we're still massaging, yes? Especially the big text, the translation is not as polished as I would like it to be. But if I wait until it's fully polished, maybe the world have already ended. Then you'll be born in some other universe. Then can't use this text. So this is also in our using this over time. We will polish some of this. Yeah? So don't get too fixated on words in any case. Don't nitpick on words. But know that, I am doing that, so you don't need to do that. But of course, if you have something to offer, it will help. But don't let it, kind of bug you. These are just words. The words are pointing us in the direction. More important, you need to know, are you headed in the direction that these words are pointing? Then we will let those of us who have the responsibility of getting the words better worry about that. So anyway, I plan to be here every day during this time slot. So if you can, please join. Okay, bye-bye everyone. Tata. You can unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Gracias, Dr. Lai.
Gracias.
Bye, everyone.
Muchas gracias. Thank you, Dr. Lai.
Bye-bye.